Today's topic is debunking educational myths, and I did specific research on the concept of brain gym. So throughout time, there have been many educational myths or ideas that have been present within the education system, ranging from the harsh agoge method used in ancient Greece, which really focused on firstborn sons and training them for military rigor. And it also, this particular method did not value the power of women in the education system. And then we go into the late 19th century where progressive education system began. There have been many proponents of this, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, John Dewey. They've all been a part or have developed a certain facet of the progressive education system. Some of these ideas are still present today and some are not used any longer. So in current day, the concept of brain-based learning has become a hot topic. Really, researchers are analyzing the impact of the brain and neuroscience findings on overall student learning. So what they're looking at is the basic mechanics of the brain activity and learning during learning in the hope that improved teaching methods can be utilized. So despite some evidence of brain-based science that is tied to increased brain activity, really the overall effectiveness of neuroscience-based intervention has not been widely used with fidelity among educators. So then we can't say that it really has an overall effectiveness because teachers haven't been really fully trained to use with fidelity. So we know that learning results in physical changes to the brain. But dramatic change requires meaningful tasks and a considerable effort. And this is really findings of a new research study or a new research done by Ben Martinoga. He did an article in 2015, July of 2015, and posted that online. So can neuroscience solve the mystery of how students learn? Brain gym. Brain gym started in the 1970s by Dr. Paul Dennison and Gail Dennison. They really were looking at three main sets of skills: neurological repatterning, cerebral dominance, and the perceptual motor training. Basically, they were hoping that these activities would develop and change children and adults' brains for people who had been found as having a learning disability. They really wanted to promote neurological repatterning and really facilitate whole brain learning through a variety of movements and activities. So the main components are neurological repatterning. Neurological repatterning is the idea that the acquisition of motor skills must occur during specific developmental stages. So basically, as we go through our life and have different developmental stages, we either develop or refine our motor skills. Now, if there's any kind of immature pattern that has developed in any of these stages, overall learning can be hindered. So Brain Gym's claim is to really facilitate master of development within each skill area. So this would then leave the child neurologically intact and ready to acquire academic skills. Despite this claim, there's been a resounding pattern of research that debunks this idea. So to date, the idea of neural organization or neurological repatterning has not met the rigors of scientific research, and programs that offered repatterning have not resulted in overall increased learning. So basically, the main component of brain gym has been debunked. The second area of brain gym focuses on cerebral dominance. Cerebral dominance refers to basically the left brain versus right brain theories. It started with a lot of the studies by Orton, who hypothesized that mixed cerebral dominance can cause learning difficulties. So Brain Gym started multisensory techniques. Once again, there's a lack of empirical research that supports multisensory teaching approaches. So this idea of left brain versus right brain hemispheric learning has been debunked. because it's really oversimplified and it's a misleading representation of brain function. Louise O'Regan described it as the hemispheres instead communicate together to give rise to our conscious thought, emotions, and memories, our personalities, and who we are as people. So really thinking instead of the two sides as separate hemispheres and having separate functions, that they work instead together. The third approach to brain gym is really perceptual motor training. And this is a combination of visual, auditory, motor skills. So doing different things like throwing balls, bouncing balls, crawling around, balancing activities like balancing on a balance beam. And all of these motor typed activities will help a child overcome learning difficulties. Again, similar to cerebral dominance and neurological repatterning, there's a significant amount of research that has debunked the efficacy of perceptual motor training as a viable academic intervention. So basically, there is no proof that participating in perceptual motor training will help children learn. So the myth of brain gym. Brain gym was developed under the assumption that the promotion of certain exercises would activate specific areas of the brain and facilitate whole brain learning. So I really like this quote by Hyatt where he says, neurological repatterning has been described as fraudulent. Cerebral dominance has not been linked to learning, and perceptual motor training has not withstood rigorous scientific investigation. So overwhelmingly, the main components of brain gym have been debunked. So despite its widely used application in the United States and in Europe, it has limited scientific research supporting its core principles. So it's really clear that brain gym is not supported by research. So what does this mean for us as educators? We really need to make the best changes and the best choices for educational reform. We need to focus on research-based practices. We need to be mindful of empirical evidence that supports education methodology instead of these pseudoscientific claims such as those within brain gym. And since the field of neuroscience is currently researching physiological connections to the activity of the brain to increase learning, educators also need to be cautious of all brain-based claims. So there's a lot of new research that's happening, but not a lot of it is completely empirically sound. And then generic neuroscience claims are prevalent in today's education conversation. The unfortunate truth to this is that educators may waste time implementing meaningless strategies, which then in turn robs our students of an opportunity for success. So we need to think about it from a different perspective. And we as educators are not neuroscientists, but we can glean information from this specific field of study by making evidence-based decisions that can positively impact our education system versus the alternative of being hoodwinked by slick marketing strategies of the newest, latest, and greatest in the educational fads. So my reference page is as follows. We have Benedict Carey, How We Learn, William Hayes, The Progressive Education Movement, Hodgkins and Powell, just information on Sparta and the Agogé. We have Horvath and Donahue, which is another article from the Debunking Myths website. We have Hyatt's research on brain gym, Ben Martinoga's research that I found off of the Debunking Myths website with a specific link to his site, and Louise O'Regan's, again, from the Debunking Myths website. Thank you.